on, Dr. Steve.
Thank you.
This is Dr. Steve.
I got into the fracking debate a few years ago. Well, it started with the corporations. I was sued by Sony Corporation, and that sort of tipped me up as to how the corporations function in the modern world. And it is a corporate illusion that we're living under. They control everything that we eat, everything that we drink, everything you view on television. It's all a controlled system, and we're there at the bottom as the corporations there to support those corporations. Fracking is one of the big issues that's time sensitive. Once they've drilled through those water aquifers and over in Hull, you're dependent on them. I live over in Manchester. We've got a lot of surface water there. It would be polluted eventually, and we would be drinking contaminated water if they drill through the aquifers there. But if your aquifers drilled through, you're going to be drinking that water straight away. So it's an alarming, very time-sensitive issue that people need to get switched on to. I started doing the Barton Moss site when it came to my attention last November. I'm part of the British Constitutional Group. We look into the corporate structure and of law as we know in this country, or what we think are laws. Down in other protests, where you have what are called legal observers. Well, legal relates to the legal fiction, the paperwork, part of the control system that we're living under, where I know that's not real. The law in this land is common law. We know this because it's mentioned in the Magna Carta of 1215. Statutes, acts of Parliament, cannot be the law of the land because Parliament just simply didn't exist then. So common law is the law of the land, and it's the only law that actually applies to you.
Absolutely.
Now, I started going down Barton Moss, and rather than putting on the legal observer bib, I put on a lawful observer. So we have the legal observers watching out for things relating to the legal circumstances, and they had me there watching out for things that relate to the actual law of the land. And I can tell you, 5 months on Barton Moss, the police broke every law I can think of on that moss, assaulting people, depriving them of the liberty, damaging their possessions. It was an absolute atrocity on there. I think I did well out of it because I survived until January, until I got arrested. Yeah, you wouldn't think as an observer just taking video footage down there that you would be arrested, but they specifically singled out anybody with a camera down there, and if you weren't towing their lines, going where they wanted you and filming what they wanted you to see, you were a target. I was thrown to the ground twice. The second time, I was filming a gentleman being arrested. Both of his arms were being twisted violently up his back. He was surrounded by 3 TAU officers, Tactical Aid Unit, one of the more violent units of Greater Manchester Police.
Riot unit, the most violent unit.
Okay, the most violent unit. Extremely violent and trained in violence. They are not trained to deal with peaceful protesters. These people, they're there for dealing with fights at football matches, things like that. They're not trained to go in and negotiate with peaceful protesters. Exactly the opposite. They just go in with violence. And as I was filming Colin, who was arrested on that particular day, the 14th of January 14, one of the TAU officers turned round. He said to me, "Get that out of here," obviously referring to the camera. And then he picked me up and threw me to the ground. I just kept filming. I was quite shocked, but I
absolutely launched him. I caught it on my camera.
I didn't mind that. Colin was still being arrested. And I still wanted to film what was going on, and I kept doing that. And another officer, one of the less violent ones, held me to the feet. And then the now famous, I say famous because the actual video that I shot went onto YouTube and it went viral. It went all around the world.
How many million now?
It was over 1 million back in February on one feed. We can't possibly add up all the feeds. But
within 2 days it had 2 million hits.
but I bump into people where we had a music festival over in Manchester where people coming from Belgium, Poland, and they were telling me that they'd seen the videos. It's been on TV in Romania,
You've been drinking?
America.
Fascist pig. Yeah,
Well, anyway, the now famous Kehoe,
have you been drinking?
he comes up and obviously he did, I'd filmed him on 3 different occasions, threatening me with arrest. And he grabbed me and he started shoving me up the road and assaulting me basically. And I said, "You're assaulting me." He said, "No, I'm not." He says, "I'm not going to arrest you." And then he turns around and says, "You've been drinking, you haven't you?" I said, "No, I haven't." He said, yeah. And it progresses like, you know, and he basically turns around and he says, "You've just told me that you've been drinking." I said, "No, I haven't." I said, "I've had tea." And he turns around to other officers and he says, "He's just told me he's drinking." He said he had 2 drinks. I said, "No, I didn't. I've got it on film here. I've videoed the whole thing." And they run me through the breathalyzer procedure. Obviously, this officer had lied to the other ones. But I was fairly confident in what I was saying. I hadn't had a drink. I didn't have a car. I didn't have any car keys. My car was in for repair at that particular time. So when they started, running me through the breathalyzer procedure, I said, "Look, I'm a pedestrian on a public footpath. I don't have to." They said, "No, we can breathalyze you." And they said, "Do you consent to a breathalyzer?" No. If it's part of their law where they think they can apply a breathalyzer, why do they need my consent?
Fascism.
Right. And it was 3 times they asked me, "Do you consent?" I said, "No." I told you the first time, "No, I do not consent to a breathalyzer." And after the 3rd one, they arrested me and took me away. And obviously, when we got to court, I ran them through the Freeman argument. They said, "Were you Stephen Spy?" I said, "No, I'm Stephen the family spy." They said it again. And I said, "Oh, are you Stephen Spy?" I said, "No, I'm Stephen of the family spy." They said, "Where do you live?" I said, I live on the land." I said, "What's your date of birth?" I said, "That's hearsay evidence, Your Honour." Because obviously, I expected to be pressed on the issues, but they didn't. But obviously, your date of birth is hearsay. I know when my mum and dad say I was born, they give me a date. It's written in a birth certificate. You can't use the birth certificate, so that's Crown copyright. That would be fraud. So I have to rely on what my mum and dad told me, and they're proven liars. They told me that there was a tooth fairy, and they told me that Santa Claus was real. So I definitely can't take their word for it. But I wasn't pressed on that. The prosecution quickly dropped all charges, offered no evidence, and the case was dismissed. That's gone to a police complaint. The IPC have overseen the complaint, but they're going to find themselves not guilty of any wrongdoing because it's a corporate complaints procedure where they investigate themselves and at every stage find themselves not guilty of any wrongdoing. So I'm just waiting for the excuses on that particular issue, and then I'll sue them. And then hopefully get paid. So that was my first unlawful arrest this year. The second one happened last week.
You fascist!
Obviously, after my experience on Barton Moss, filming them on Barton Moss, one gentleman turned up one day, I think it was Swinton Police Station, and he dressed in a pig mask and a fluorescent jacket. I thought, that was so good and it's so comical. And he wore American police arm. I thought, that's so funny. I said, "We need you down on Barton Moss." And he says, "I've got a wooden leg. I can't get up Barton Moss for it." It was a very lumpy road. I thought, "Well, he's got a wooden leg, but I don't." So I got myself a pig mask. I had an old security jacket left over, so I put that on. I got a plastic toy Bobby's hat, a plastic toy truncheon, and a plastic set of handcuffs. And I appeared on Barton Moss in front of the TAU. I lined up with them. We had photos taken. They kept moving away. We were around. I know a few innocent protesters that were assaulted by Constable 666 on Barton Moss outside Swinton Police Station. There's the video on YouTube there we put up where Ag was chased around the Greater Manchester Police HQ by Constable 666. And even at that time, they sent two officers out, and they said, "Well, so that jacket looks nothing like one of our jackets. Well, we've got to check that you're not impersonating a police officer." So they must have meant that because I had a pig mask on, I must have looked like one of their officers. That's, view the video. It's on my my YouTube feed, but that's the. So after 4 months of appearing as Constable 666 in all these different locations, in front of very senior officers, in front of teams of officers out on Barton Moss, outside their actual HQ, it was a bit of a surprise when we went to Manchester one day to do a spoof video. We filmed outside the Manchester Crown Courts, and then Boris turned around and said, he says, it's polling day. He says, "I'd like to do a bit of filming outside one of the polling stations." So we went across to Manchester Town Hall. We did a bit of filming. Quite a few the community supports, the corporates end of GMP turned up, and they were most alarmed and that. And as we were going and heading back towards the car to get them, a sergeant came up and he says, "I believe you're impersonating a police officer." I said, "No, I'm not." He says, "Yeah, police officer." I said, "No, it doesn't." And he basically placed me under arrest. I'm stood there in a pig mask, toy helmet, toy handcuffs, toy baton. He slapped the cuffs on. I'm still wearing this pig mask. There's some excellent pictures, like the videos online. It was being live streamed at the time. Well, that's the second video this year to go viral all over the web. The Toronto Sun put pictures of it up, and it's basically all over the net. They kept me in the cells for 8 hours.
Lightweight.
I had a barrister came down the cells and he said to me, he says, "Well, you can make a statement." Or "You could not make a statement. It doesn't really matter. There's no charge here." It's ridiculous and ludicrous. It seemed that the officer who interviewed me on the thing was just embarrassed about the whole thing. And I've never, when that video hit and all the pictures started flying out, I've never known GMP to drop a case so fast. When the officer came to, because obviously I wanted my uniform back, so when the officers came to give me my pig mask back, my plastic helmet, plastic truncheon, plastic handcuffs, I filmed them and I put that onto YouTube, so that's watchable. But he says, "We've been round 5 times." They were in that much of a rush to come round, if it was unimportant to them, they would just come to once and say, "He's not in, forget it." But no, they would keep coming, so there must have been orders to say, "Come and drop that," and they dropped the case, and you're no longer on bail, and returned everything. So GMP are doing a very good job so far of embarrassing themselves with me this year. All those videos are available on my YouTube channel, which is Steve Spy. But it looks, because Officer 666 was up on Crawberry Hill earlier, where they stopped him gaining they stopped him gaining access to the site, so we use that as a photo opportunity. So Humberside Police appear to be going the same way that GMP went. So anyway, Humberside Police seem to be making some of the same mistakes that GMP made, and they're getting themselves a bad press. But back to the fracking issue, because that's where we started, and it's an important thing to stop. I think if people want to contribute and sort of get involved and get down there on the front line, that's great. But there's two sides to this. When you pay all your bills, you're financing these corporations that are enslaving us. They laugh at you when you pay those bills because you're financing these ridiculous activities they're up to. I visit sites. Obviously, I don't live full time in a tent. I live in a house in Manchester. I don't pay any bills. I've not paid a gas or electric bill for 18 months. They don't come knocking on my door. They don't ask. They don't come harassing me. They don't send me nasty letters. I quite like the nasty letters. I quite like the knock on the door so that I could video them and put them onto YouTube. So I don't know how many people you actually pay gas and electric. Any? No? All? Everybody? Okay. Next time. I don't think now. I'm a Freeman, so I've been doing this quite a lot. I started with the television license. Does everybody know that you don't need to pay the television license? Right. Stop paying it. Cancel your direct debits if you've got any. Cancel all your direct debits. In fact, that makes it too easy for them. But I stopped that. That was I disagree with the television license. Obviously, the Jimmy Savile thing sort of drummed it home. If ever there was an example of why you shouldn't pay the television license, Jimmy Savile, the example of that is endemic in the BBC. He was a good friend of Prince Charles. This goes right the way up to the what we think is the Queen. She's not actually the Queen, but I won't go into that now. The second one I stopped paying was the council tax. I was fighting the Sony case at the time when I sort of became aware of the corporate thing, so I didn't deal with it back then, but I stopped paying the council tax. I'm a free man on the land. I'm not liable for any form of tax. In fact, there's no law in this country that says you have to pay income tax. That was introduced to pay for the war with the French. There was no enabling legislation. There's no obligation on you to pay any form of tax. The council tax, I didn't tell them that I'm a free man, and as such, under Article 61 of Magna Carta, I'm not liable for any tax. What I did was I said I'm going to have to withhold payment. Because if I pay you, I'd be guilty of an offence under Article 3, Section 15 of the Terrorism Act 2000. As anybody who knowingly finances terrorists is guilty of an offence if they do that. And I can't in good conscience, and I've made Greater Manchester Police aware that I know they are terrorists. I know their involvement in the 7th of July bombings in 2005, where they blamed 4 Muslims for a plot actually carried out by MI5 in conjunction with Mossad. Benjamin Netanyahu was in London at the time of the 7th of July bombings. Mossad admit, and if you go on the net you can find it, that they went to his hotel room and they said to him 10 minutes before bombs started exploding not to leave his hotel room because bombs would be exploding that day. So how did Mossad know? Why didn't they do anything about it? GMP were involved in the overall cover-up of the 7th of July bombings, so I don't pay council tax. I don't pay gas and electric. If you want fun with them, next time you get a gas or electric bill, I say don't do it all in one go. It's a bit too much for people to sort of get your head around that you don't need to pay any bill. But next time you get a gas or electric bill, just don't pay it. Write to them and say, please can you provide me with a copy of the contract as per the 1974 Consumer Credit Act, and see what they send you. They don't have one. They're breaking the law. When they up their bills by 10%, that's a breach of contract. If there was one in the first place, they just breached it. So begin to question these bills and stop paying them. Stop financing that, because all that money goes to activities like fracking, and we've been recently made aware of the offshore coal extraction, which is a nightmare scenario for the environment. But they're using all that money that you pump into the system to finance these activities. If that money dried up, they'd have to think of other ways to go and get their money. So thank you for your time.
The next talk's, yeah, go on, Phil.
Martin Spike.
Stephen.
Spike.
Steve, yeah.
He seems to be walking the walk as far as the Freeman thing goes. I mean, would you give us 10 minutes? I don't want to put you on the spot.
All right, Stephen.
Okay, what do you need to know about the... is it the Freeman movement that you're interested in?
Yes. Because I started following it when John Harris was up and talking about it, and then it kind of seemed to have died a little bit of a death, and there was a little bit here and a little bit there, but then, I mean, obviously... the Freeman movement seemed to have died a little bit of a death, and there was a little bit here and a little bit there, but then, I mean, obviously...
the Freeman movement's ebbing and flowing. There's different people going in different directions. When I sort of got really into the Freeman movement, it was after the Roger Hayes incident, where they arrested the judge, thousands of people, going down to Birkenhead Court, and the system that they're operating there, which he exposed very well. He exposed the council tax scam there. It's a big fraud, and it's just highlighted, anybody paying the council tax, you really need to look at that and just get the documents that they give you and look into those documents. And it's really obvious stuff. When you don't pay initially, they send you a summons. It's a forged summons. The council do not have the authority to issue a summons. Now, I work very closely with solicitors and barristers. Something that Freemen don't generally do. The Freeman movement say, no, don't deal with them. But they know an awful lot about these statutes, that are being imposed on us. And it's handy to have, where I argue things like the gas and electric. I argue under a statute, because I'm going to argue that first. I'll argue their laws, their rules that don't apply to me. I'll argue that first, because one thing I know, it applies to them. It doesn't apply to me; it applies to them. So use it against them. So just because they don't apply to you, it doesn't mean they can't be of use. Things like the 1974 Consumer Credit Act. Make sure that they're abiding by law. When they send you a document, make sure it's a valid document. The amount of fraud that's going on, they're saying, obey this statute, obey that statute, and then mounting the statutes. They're not obeying their own statutes. When they send you a summons issued by the council, it's fraud. It's a forged document. Anything they send you after that is null and void. Right? So you've really got to start questioning, everything that you get, every single and take it on a step-by-step basis. And if you don't know the answer, write to them and ask them. Ask them, what is the law that I've got to pay this? What's the actual legal basis do you apply to that? And make sure it's valid in their statutes. And don't just take their word for it. To spend a bit of time looking into the individual things. That's why I say nobody can come along and just stop paying everything immediately. Right? It's a learning thing. You've got to get your head around why these things are unlawful and why some of them are just morally wrong. Gas and electric, the way I look at it is, it's not their gas. The electric should be.
So what do you do, Steve? Do you just accept the gas and not pay the bill? Is that how it works?
Oh, well, I could do. I mean, it's free. It's our gas, really. Just because they put. But who put the infrastructure in? It's our labour that went into putting that infrastructure. It's manpower. The corporations didn't, just come along and do that. That's our gas. That's the naturally, the conventional gas that's drilled out that we. Obviously, the fracking movement doesn't have a big problem with conventional gas, because that's not as damaging as say, the gas that they're trying to accept with fracking. But that's down from within the earth. They don't own the earth. Right? What they're trying to do now is drill under your home without your permission. Right? They're giving themselves through their statutes. Right? Yeah. They want to drill under your house, if they drill under your house and frack that, then they've given themselves permission to do it without your permission, right? You will not get insurance. If your house is damaged by fracking, you will not get any insurance on that house. How are you going to sell your house without insurance? Right? They can do it without your permission, without you knowing. Right? You go to an insurance company, any insurance company, and say I'm worried about if they frack in my house, are you going to cover me? Right? All of them will say no, we will not cover you in that eventuality.
Can you just give us, if you like, a recommended reading or something to watch to educate? If I wanted to learn more.
Well, you mentioned John Harrison. That's a brilliant place to start. John Harris gives a wonderful, it's illusion, an illusion, and he goes through the words, and it's very interesting. I met a barrister many years ago, and I said, I've got this bit of paper, and he says everything. Right, regarding the law, these statutes, it's all in the wording, and it's amazing how many words that just fly by us, day by day, and we don't really analyse the words. We just take them as granted, like police. That's pronounced incorrectly. It's actually policy. They're policy officers. When you're ill, you get a disease. Well, if you break that down, it's dis-ease. We're controlled by government. Govern is control, ment is the mind. Governmental. It's a mind control system. Once you start analysing and breaking down those words, and you begin to realise what an illusion is that we live under. So the John Harris thing, it is an illusion. It's a brilliant place to start. And you can see how they've hoodwinked us for all these years, and it's been pretty good because it's fooled my parents and parents of their parents and generations. It's fooled but it's time to wake up and see. It's a system based on fear. Doesn't operate without your consent. If everybody stopped functioning within that system and just said no, why do I have to do this? Question it, question your authority. The system will cease to function. It is based on fear. Fear's a big one. There's another one as well. Guilt. All this Jesus died on the cross for you, and so it's to get you feeling guilty. Somehow I must feel that and if they can get you feeling guilty, that's another base function. It stops you vibrating at that higher level. You do need to vibrate at this higher level, and you just need to be happy within yourself and do the right things. So when I tell people to stop paying bills, I don't want them to sit there and mope and fear every knock on the door. I don't fear any knock on the door. I think, where's my camera? I want to video this. But if you're not enjoying yourself, if you're not unhappy, if you think, well, I've used that electric, I should pay for it, then pay for it by all means. Right? But have some enjoyment when you realise that it's just there to keep you poor. When you're giving money to the electric and gas corporations, it's bizarre the way it's set up because they just seem to bill you, and there's no system for them to sort of pay transporting the gas. It's just whoever owns the meter, you're just paying them whatever. That's back pocket money to them. That's going into the bonuses of millions of pounds in bonuses, right, to these directors. They are laughing at us. They are overcharging us. So the first thing to do is say, where's the contract? And a lot of things come down to contract. You're supplying something. If I come up and shove a power line through your front door and start billing you and saying, well, you've used so much of this stuff that I've shoved through your door, and you'll go, hang on, I didn't ask for that. Who set the price? The correct way to do it, right, is for them to sit down with us and say, we want to provide the service. This is what we propose charging for it. And you go, well, hang on, I think the price should be. I've got solar panels. Right? That sunlight generates power. I charge batteries. I power my whole house on a 12-volt LED lighting system. I don't need their electric. They are charging too much. I can get it free out of a solar panel. Why don't they stick solar panels on all the houses and lower our electricity bills? Why don't they charge a fair price? Why don't they stop giving out massive bonuses? Right? So if you want to supply something to me, you sit down, you write a contract, and a contract in law is a bit of paper with the prices on that we've agreed between it, and their signature and your signature. Anything less than that in law is not a contract. So all those companies that tell you, oh well, you've tied in with a contract, 18 months, 2-year contracts, some of them. Right? You go, hang on, I phoned you up for this, or I went on the net and I clicked a button for this. Where's the contract? Oh, well, it's a verbal contract. A verbal contract is worse than the paper it's written on. Right? It's worthless. Right? So many of these companies are saying, you're in a contract there, you're in a contract. You're not. Right? I had Virgin Media, I thought, well, they're fast. I'm in a Virgin Media area. I'll get this 3-month deal that they're doing, right? Where I paid them £20, right? And after the 3 months, they started billing me like, what's it, £100? I signed up for the £20 deal. So cancelled it after the 3 months and just switch provider. They're sending me stuff saying like, well, you're in a contract. Well, where's the contract? And I ran with another provider for a few months, and I thought, well, they're getting a bit expensive now, I'll cancel that. And I went back to Virgin Media. They didn't say anything about the money that I was supposed to have owed them for getting out of the contract before that. Right? They connected me, and I ran again, so, Gun, there was a hand going up.
Yeah. Where do you go then? What house do you go down when the threaten to take us to court?
Who's threatening you at the minute?
Just say they send you a letter, your utility company, British Gas or whatever, and they say we're going to send you to court and we're going to get the sheriff and the county to gain access to your house. And
they gain access.
Put a token meter in. What do you do then? Where do you go?
I tell them to get stuffed.
Yeah, you can say it, but when they turn up physically with it,
Don't wait till they turn up. Right? You simply write to them and say, right, I'd like you to remove your meters from my property. You've got 14 days to do it. If you don't do it within the 14 days, I'll have an engineer remove those meters, then I will charge you £100 a week storage for those meters. You can then fit your own meters, and guess what? You send the readings to whoever owns the meter. So send yourself the readings and pay yourself what you think is a fair price for that electric and gas that you use. The water, I won't pay water rates. The gunk, I distill all my water now. The gunk that is provided in the water system is unbelievable. I get a nasty residue after distillation. So I'm not happy with the quality of the water that they're shoving through those pipes. And until they sit down with me and sign a contract as to the purity of the water they're going to provide and the reasonable costings, then they've got no right to be demanding money off me either. If they're not going to adhere by the law and bill ridiculous amounts for services that should be a hell of a lot cheaper, if not free, water is a human right. It's the one bill, if you don't pay, you can't disconnect it.
Energy is a human freedom.
Energy, yeah.
Come on, man. No.
Obviously, we all know about Stanley Meyer, who invented the water power car in the 1990s.
Energy is a human
Mysteriously died. The water power car was invented again in 2006 in Japan. And it's been invented again in Pakistan now, where they're going into mainstream production. There's the air power car. If you can power a car off water, you can power up the power stations with it. We don't need coal, gas.
Have you been following the quantum energy generator?
I certainly follow all the quantum stuff. It's very interesting, right? But I think the way it's being marketed, I think it's a very time-consuming thing. I do electronics as a trade, I'm self-employed. I don't pay tax or anything because there's no law that says you have to pay income tax. So when they send me self-assessments, they don't get filled in because you're signing a contract. You're contracting with them. You admit that you're going to pay them money, It's all contract laws. You're dealing with private corporations. You think you live in a country, you don't. It's a corporation. Right? The UK is a corporation. The United States is called the Virginia Corporation. Canada, Australia, crown colonies. Right? Who do you think the Crown is? It's a private corporation based in the city of London. Right? It occupies the financial district. It's a country within a country. It's not part of the UK. It's a bit like the Vatican. No, it's a private corporation. It's run by private individuals. But that corporation and those private individuals are profited out of all the profits from all the crown colonies. Did we get rich out of having colonies like the United States? Did the poor people get suddenly jump up in wealth and out of having Canada and Australia and all that revenue over the years streaming into the country? No, it's private individuals that have profited.
Can you find out who they are?
It's very difficult. They're very secretive. They don't tell us. You know about the Federal Reserve System in America? It's a private corporation tasked with printing all the banknotes for America. All that money that they print is owed back to the Federal Reserve plus interest. Well, it's the same system with the Bank of England. It's exactly the same system over here. They can never print enough money to pay themselves back. It's a system designed to fail.
Yeah, you can find out who they are actually. There's a book wrote by Eustace Mullins called The New World Order.
Okay, yeah.
And in that, he lists all the shareholders of the Bank of England in the 1950s.
Oh, it's excellent. Obviously, there's a field I've not looked into too closely, but what's the name of the book?
It's called The New World Order by Eustace Mullins.
Useless Mullins.
Eustace.
It's not that useless if you can find out.
Tell them how it is.
But yes.
Tell them how it is.
But we know the people that are controlling things, the Rothschilds, the control structure. It's all unraveling for them. All this, information's coming out. So it's an ongoing process. We're going to win. Right? We're going to get rid of them. And all that money that we've been so silly paying, all these bills and running around collecting these bits of worthless paper, these IOUs. I promised to pay the bearer £20. £20 of what? If you go to the Bank of England, they are not going to give you anything for
It's
that.
backed by gold, right? £20 of gold, please.
Unfortunately, it's not backed by gold. It's backed by nothing. It is a promissory note, and it's got if you write an IOU and 20 unicorns or whatever you want, that's got as much value as those notes. Once people cotton on to that, in fact, that the money isn't worth anything. How many people think when you go to a bank that they loan you money to buy a house? They don't. It's called fractional reserve banking.
Have you heard of One People's Public Trust?
Oh yes.
Yes, because I was following that for a couple of years, and Heather Giraffe, the lady who drafted it, she basically foreclosed on all corporations in the world using the Uniform Commercial Code, which is the hierarchy of where commercial banking's done. It's gone really quiet, and basically because nobody rebutted what she said, she basically said all corporations are now void and null and void, they don't exist. I just wondered what your views are on it.
I think it's interesting when obviously there's been arrest warrants issued for the Queen, like Tony Blair, Cameron, it's one thing, getting that put down on paper and accepted into law. It's another implementing that against the control system. More people need to wake up, and it's just the timing. They're in place. We know they're trading fraudulently. We know they're bankrupt. When they do send you gas and electric bills, guess what? They're not bills. They're dividends. They're bankrupt. They were bankrupt in the 30s. What they're sending you is what they should be paying you, not the other way around. So that's another reason not to pay them. Any other subject? Did I explain the mortgage one? Because it's a total scam. It's called fractional reserve banking. You go to them. They type in on the screen some digits and that. They haven't got the money there to loan you. right? If you're a bank and so, you know, if you want to loan somebody £10,000, guess how much you need?
Nothing.
1,000. You only need one tenth of it, and then you can. Right? The rest is magicked out of thin air. So there's a limit to how much they can actually create out of thin air, but it is created. You're then conned into paying all that money that you didn't borrow, plus interest that adds up to more than you didn't borrow in the first place. It's criminal. It's a fraud. You need to get onto this, switch on that, and just, you know, very difficult. We're in a control system, right? But you need to stop, engage them, and tell them that you know what they're doing, right? It's fraudulent, and start questioning everything around you, because none of it's real. Go on.
Yeah, what you said earlier on about the Queen, and you said she didn't really have a Queen, she's a fraud, but I'm not going to get into that, and then that was on your face.
That's true. It's a bit. Yes. Obviously, it's a German family. They've got no rights to the throne in the first place. But I think it might be the People's Trust that released the documents there. Like, you know, and if everybody filed it into court, the fact that the coronation was like a fraud. They're supposed to have this big stone that, like, you know, the monarchs like are crowned on. It was actually shipped to Scotland, like, you know, so it's a fraud stone that they were, you know, she was actually inaugurated on, and since then she's committed like numerous acts of treason. One of the acts of treason was signing over the power to Europe in 2001. It was an act of treason by ratifying that, because that goes against the Magna Carta, that says that any law that's applied to this country needs to go through the House of Lords. So the House of Commons, the House of Lords, and then it has to be ratified by the monarch. Right? By signing over, you know, to Europe, right? She bypassed that line, you know.
So where do you stand on that then? Are you a monarchist or Republican or anarchist?
I'd like to see the Queen in a rightful place, working behind the counter at McDonald's or Tesco. Earning a living, I think it would be too easy just to take them out and shoot them. Put them right in the place that they put us, struggling, living on a minimum wage, having to pay bills. I'd give them the bills and I'd tell them to pay them. Yes, it's karma. What goes around comes around, and that's my attitude. Where I say, don't pay them, like, but be happy in why you're not paying them. Enjoy not paying them, and tell them why you're not paying them. Right? But if you're not happy doing it, like, if your soul doesn't feel good, then you're doing something wrong. You've really got to enjoy it. You've got to enjoy yourself in life. Be nice to other people. Right? You reap what you sow. We're told it all the time. Do we listen? Right? When we get out there in the car and we're shouting at other drivers, and we're going to get all that back. Right? So just be nice to each other.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Always.
And share. And share.
Thank you.